So Springfield Armory released a new concealed carry pistol, and today I want to show you all the features and everything that encompasses the new Hellcat Pro comp. I want to do a little bit of comparison to the original Hellcat, but I also want to tell you why I think there's no longer a reason to buy a Glock 43X specifically because of this gun. I'll elaborate more here in a little bit. Of course, if you like what I do, consider subscribing, hit your notifications so you never miss one from me. Let's go and get into it. Now, if you weren't carrying a gun or you weren't into this, maybe just a few years ago, I want to recap this because I find it very interesting when we're looking at these two pistols, specifically the Hellcat Pro Comp and the Glock 43X. So I am going somewhere with this. But in 2018, the P365 came out. Super revolutionary because all other concealed carries, meaning single stack polymer frame striker fire guns, anyways, were single stack. So you had, 6, 7, maybe 8 rounds, but those 8-round guns, the magazines were super long, so it inhibited your ability to conceal it as well. And then SIG comes around, they redesign their magazines, and they essentially changed the market overnight. And so now every company, if you're going to come out with a new carry gun, it has to be at least 10 rounds. So in early 2019, you had the Glock 43X come out. Then in September, I believe, you had the original Hellcat come out. And then in early 2021, you had the Shield Plus come out, which I looked all this up to make sure I was right in my timeline there. And I don't remember it coming out that much later. But that is the way it essentially worked. So you had Glock and Springfield Armory come to this new design, or come around to this new concealed carry design fairly early on. And of course, SIG started it. And I want you to keep that timeline in your head so you now have it. So anyways, let's look at some of the features of this gun. So you have front and rear slide serrations. What they did is Springfield didn't make the gun any longer. It's still 6.6 inches in overall length. We have a 3.7 inch cold hammer forged barrel. We are 4.8 inches high, and I put it on the scale with this optic. They actually sent it with the Shield SMSC red dot on here, and I'm at 20.5 ounces. And that is with the 15-round magazine that it comes with, and then it also has a 17-round mag. It's very clear that not only are they trying to give us another option in the concealed carry market, but they're also trying to compete with the X Macro, which is probably the highest capacity. Can we call them micro 9s anymore? I don't know. I think we need to come up with a new name for these bigger, thinner 9mm that are on the market. But anyways, 15 and a 17-round mag options. Of course, they have one of the pistols, or one of the options that comes with two 15-round mags, and then one that comes with, two 10-round mags, depending upon your state limitations. So they pushed the front sight back. We still have the luminescent front sight there. So you have that nice tritium insert, but you also have that yellow dot in the front. It's one of the better front dots on a pistol that I've ever used. Now, interestingly, and one of the very few differences that I found between this gun and the original Hellcat Pro is that U-notch in the rear. So on the original Hellcat Pro, it's a little bit wider. This one is a little bit thinner, but I'm sure that's probably to coincide with this new SMSC because it does co-witness perfectly, actually, with this new die. So I find that pretty cool. I appreciate that they went away from the Hex Wasp. I was not a fan of that thing. I mean, of course they claim 25,000 hours on it and blah, blah, blah. I took it off of my gun. I need to replace it with something else, to be quite honest with you, because it died. Man, I was thinking it died after a couple weeks, but it wasn't that long after I ended up getting the gun. And of course, it's set up just like the Shield here, where you got to take the thing off in order to put the battery back on. And I was like, dude, if it's dead already, I'm good on that. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with it there. We have just on the left-hand side, our takedown lever, our slide release, however you want to use it, and then a reversible magazine release. 2-slot rail here in the front. Of course, we have our compensator on the top of the slide, and that coincides with our barrel as well. And so that single port, very similar again to the X Macro, it's integrated, so we don't have to thread anything on, we don't have to time anything, it's already there. So that's going to kick some of those expanding gases out and upwards and allow us to keep the muzzle down. Now, I was going back and I was looking through some of my old Hellcat Pro footage, and I don't know if you noticed with that gun, but it was super flat shooting. I mean, it was actually pretty impressive. They beveled the front here, right, for holstering purposes. We have a witness hole in the top here so we can see our brass down in the chamber. Of course, we have the Springfield Armory logo on the top of the slide. We have these little indexing pads forward, basically where the trigger guard starts on both sides, and the adaptive grip texturing. So if you haven't seen a close-up of how this texturing works, essentially if you go into a gun shop, and you can try this for yourself if you don't believe me, but you go into a gun shop and just say, hey, I know this looks weird, but I want to pet your Hellcat. And so yeah, it really does not sound great at all. Actually, I wouldn't bring it to them like that at all. But you could just run your finger across it, and it's not super abrasive, right? So that's gonna tell you, okay, against my skin or even against the undershirt, it's not gonna be super rough. But then once you grab onto the gun, you get a little bit more bite, and that's because that top layer has flattened areas, and the layer underneath actually has little pyramids to help bite into your hand, giving you that extra control on the gun, so it's not going anywhere, and it feels really, really good in the hand. I know you may think it's some kind of a gimmick, but I promise you it's not. I hope you guys appreciate how high I have to keep that thermostat in order for you to not hear that noise. I ended up watching back a couple of videos with headphones on, and when that thing was on, I was distracted. So anyways, that's what I had to do. I had to turn that thing off. All the way around, you have pretty much the same gun. One thing I want to point out here is the magazines. They pop right out of the gun. I appreciate that. When you don't have to, actually pull it out of the gun, it will just pop right out of there. The trigger is a little bit different, but I think once we run some rounds through it, it's going to lighten up a little bit. You have an overstop travel in the back of the frame. Reset, really audible, tactile. And then once you get to the wall, I guess, is where it feels like it starts to stack just a little bit. It starts to even out, and then it pulls through. The original Hellcat Pro, of course, that has rounds to it, is a little bit smoother than what I have on this one here. So overall, they did some really nice things with this gun. I really appreciate Springfield Armory sending this gun out, even knowing that I can't shoot it, so I can't bring you, like a full review and tell you, first of all, make sure that it is reliable. I have no worries there, but of course you have to shoot every single gun in order to, actually tell y'all and give you that information, but also be able to see how much of a difference that port is going to make. One thing, like I said, with the original Hellcat Pro is it was super flat shooting, so I'm interested to see how that's going to work. Got about 3 more weeks until I can actually shoot again, so super stoked about that. But overall, I think they did a good job with this gun. I think it's got the size, the weight is right. It would have been really easy to kind of just, make a bigger concealed carry gun and throw some features at it, throw an optic on it, and it'd be 25 ounces, and now you're kind of ruining what makes these slimmer guns, just accessible to a lot of people. So overall, I think they did a really solid job. 2 things I was hoping that they would put with this model that they didn't is upgrade that rear sight. I'm not a fan of U-notch sights in the rear really at all. And update the trigger to like a flat face trigger is what I was kind of hoping for. But they didn't. And, with the Hellcat Pro, I shot that gun fairly well. It was just a couple things I was hoping they were going to put on this model, but all the way around, I'm super impressed with, of course, the size and the fact that they didn't add any length here. You get the benefits of the comp, and of course optics ready and all that kind of stuff too, and 17 round mag as well, which I'm excited to use, and I'm glad they're coming out with that to rival, you know, the X Macro. Now, what about that whole Glock talk that we had in the beginning? This is where I find it interesting, because this gun is, you know, 20.5 ounces with the optic on here, empty mag, of course, whereas the Glock is 18.7 ounces. So a little less than 2 ounce difference there. The Glock is over 5 inches, just a little bit over 5 inches. This one's 4.8, so you have 5 additional rounds compared to that Glock. So when I talk about the Glock 43X being unnecessarily long, this is what I'm talking about. This is one of the best examples there. This is actually just a little bit shorter than what you'll find with that Glock, but at the end of the day, you have 5 additional rounds. I just think the 43X is a lazy option. So anytime I hear somebody say, well, why do you need a pro version or a pro comp or even a performance center or a tac ops version or whatever, normally I relate that with somebody that is carrying a Glock because they're like, oh yeah, this is, you know, this is the best thing ever. When in my opinion, they lazily put out you know, a carry gun that they simply lengthened from the original 43. They just lengthened the grip there, you know. Of course, more things went into it than what I'm showing here. I'm simplifying it, but at the end of the day, that's what it was. They came out with an MOS version. And that's it, right? These other companies are pushing the bar and just adding more value to the market. So this may be somebody's first carry gun. They're like, man, it's comped, so it should have less recoil. We've yet to find that out. I will soon. But it also is red dot ready, good capacity. So this is a gun that I could, you know, possibly train on as my first handgun, use it for home defense, could carry it in my car, and eventually I could conceal carry it too. So this could be a really good option. And yeah, it's going to run you $100 more than a 43X, but still, I appreciate what they do here. Each one of these companies, a lot of these companies, continue to push the bounds and continue to offer us things that we didn't think possible just even, you know, 6 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean, it's really insane how much has changed since 2018, and these companies continue to add value, while Glock has basically done the same thing with their 43X. And look, dude, if you carry a 43X and you love that gun and you actually carry it every single day, I don't hate you. I think that's freaking awesome. I want people to carry whatever you want to carry, right? There's options out there on the market. I just think at the end of the day, they should be the ones innovating more than anybody. And then you have a gun like this come out that is clearly them, Springfield Armory, pushing the bar in what we consider as a good concealed carry gun. And now, instead of those single stack days, 6 rounds, 7 rounds, we have companies that are coming out with comped versions, red dots, 4.8 inches high, and yet 15 rounds in the mag. This is what I like to see. And that's just my opinion, though. I will recommend the Hellcat Pro or pretty much any of these other guns over a 43X too, because I shoot these guns better. I don't find that the 43X is that great of a shooter either, unless you add a bunch of stuff into it. But that's just my opinion. Of course, I'd love to hear yours, man. If you think I'm totally off base, let me know. If you agree, let me know that too. Let me know what you're carrying these days and what kind of holster, what kind of gun belt, what kind of gun. Primarily, what are you carrying these days? Let me know. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.